Listen, people have said so many times that politics are not important and that the church shouldn't even deal with politics. Okay, so we're going to deal with that. I have heard from many people that youth don't care about politics. People have said to me often that the numbers are going to stay the same. Young people are not going to vote. They don't care about the election. They don't care about politics and government. But I think as we look at the research, we're going to see that that's really not true. That is false. And maybe for you that these statistics I'm going to share will excite you. Maybe it will surprise you, right? So we're going to take some time, and I'm going to take the first couple of minutes and just share with you some statistics that actually speak against what popular thought is, that young people don't care about politics. Okay, so let's talk about that. I want to talk about some of the issues that are important to young people. Okay, and if you would, as I said, if you just joined us, send us a question that you have on politics, and we're going to try to answer that tonight. Okay, so here's some stats. Generation Z, which we know are basically junior high, high school, and college students. It's around that 13-year-old age up to college, 23, 24. It depends on the sociological model where we land on that age group. But it's about junior high, high school, and college. And right now, what we're seeing is that 65% of them, between the ages of 18 and 24, so the eligible voters in Gen Z, which would be 18-year-olds to 24-year-olds. Thank you, Nate. I have that question, and we'll get right to that. When you think about this stat, that 65% of them are not going to vote, but they would vote if they were more informed. 2/3 of 18 to 24-year-olds would vote if they were more informed. So right now, the stat is 65% of them, 2/3, are not going to vote. But they would change their mind if they were prepared. So let me talk about that first. How do you prepare yourself to feel like when you step into the ballot box in 2 weeks and a couple of days, that you are informed on who to vote for? Listen, it's not just about voting for your parents, okay? For your parents' vote or your parents' party. I think that's maybe a start where you have that conversation and with your parents, and you say, okay, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, auntie, uncle, right? Who are you voting for and why? I think that's a great place to start to prepare you, because that family conversation is going to be something that you probably are going to hear a lot of, and not just at election time, right? All kinds of issues come up, and your family can speak into that. So let's begin by saying, if you want to be prepared for the 2024 election, start with your family. Ask your family, why, mom and dad, why do you vote the way you do, right? And I think that will help you get informed. Secondly, those of you that are in school, okay, the 18-year-old could be seniors, right? We have 18-year-olds who are seniors in high school, and up to that 24 range for Gen Z. You're going to school, college, right? Maybe it's at work, but you have a friend group or a circle of people that you can talk to these issues about. Listen, you may not be very informed on the political landscape, but I'll bet one of your friends are, right? And especially if you're a senior in high school and you're able to vote right now, okay? I can see people joining us. Thank you again, Keaton and Brandon and Bradley and Noah and Jono. We're talking about politics tonight and how to help you get informed. Number one was talk to your family. Number two is talk to your peer group. Bring up a discussion in one of your classes at school and watch the sparks fly. Right? I mean, listen, everybody has an opinion, right? Sometimes they're not very informed opinions, but everybody has an opinion. And so the more you prepare yourself by talking to your family, right? And by preparing yourself through conversations with your peers, it will help you feel like you are prepared to vote. Okay, here's a third thing you can do. It's really simple to do this. And with the phone in your hand, all you have to do is go to a news source. Okay, go to a news source. Now, we know that there are left-leaning news sources and there are right-leaning news sources. And so one of the things you can do is to balance your time listening to both, okay? Because if you just listen to, let's say, the right-leaning Fox News, right? Or Newsmax, then you're going to hear that angle, correct? You know that. Let's not be blind to that fact. If you are listening to CNN or MSNBC, you're going to find a left-leaning message. And it's really easy to do that by just listening for a few minutes, right? Now, what you need to do is balance both of those news sources, put the thought together, put the information together, and it will be so much easier for you to think through, how do I feel about these issues, okay? All right, so number one, how do I prepare myself for voting? It is speaking with your family, asking mom and dad. They'll be able to talk to you about the things that are important to them and why they vote a certain way. Talk to your peers, number two, right? Talk to the people around you. You may not be real informed, but you have people in your circle who are. Number three, news sources, and balance the news sources, okay? Number four, let me give you this one. I think one of the things that you could do is to look at the issues that are important to you. Okay, does that make sense? Look at the issues that are important to you. If the issue of school reform, education reform, and controlling the cost of education at the college, university level, or the messaging, progressive or conservative, in the school setting is important to you, then which candidate, which platform best speaks to those issues, right? I mean, how simple is it to just look at the things that are important to you and then reach out and study and look at the platforms of the people who have stands on those issues? For instance, education reform. What about the border, right? Is it important for you that we have closed borders, open borders, or pathway borders, right? One of the most important things to me when I look at preparing myself to vote, I want to know that I am living in a country that welcomes and has welfare and humanitarian cause for the orphan and the immigrant, right? But I don't want open borders. I want pathway borders, okay? And I don't want closed borders either, right? So which party, which candidate has the best view for me as I look at border control, okay? So we looked at education reform, border control. What about global policy? What about foreign affairs? Great, thank you, Salcedo. I see that question. We have a couple of questions I'll get to in about 1 minute, okay? Lauren, thank you for joining us. I appreciate this. And please text a friend, get somebody online and make sure that we can spread this. And listen, This will be up and running on YouTube this week. If you just go to the link tree, all you got to do is hit the on the socials, hit the link tree, and it'll take you to the website where you can read this manuscript. It will take you to the YouTube channel where you can watch this, or it will also take you to the iTunes podcast where you can listen to this while you're working out or in the car, right? So anyway, back to preparing ourselves. The question was, how do I prepare myself to vote? Number one, talk to your family. Number two, talk to your peers. Number three, do a research study of the news and balance yourself on right and left, right? Because there's great views both ways that will help you. And then this last one we were talking about is to prepare yourself by voting, by looking at the kinds of issues that are important to you and where each party stands on those issues. Okay? So anyway, let me go to another question. And the question is from Nate Lawrence. And Nate says, when it looks like there is no candidate that really shows biblical characteristics, and why I should vote for them, which one is the lesser of two evils? Okay? Man, maybe you thought about that, right? I don't like this candidate. I don't like that candidate. Well, let me just say this first of all. I'll answer that question, but let me say this first of all. It is very dangerous for you to think that your vote doesn't count. Okay? Because sometimes we can say, well, neither one of these has the character or the principle, in their life or on their platform that I agree with. Okay? Well, I think you probably know, you may not even agree with everything that your friends share about topics, right? You may not agree with your siblings or your parents, but I think there's probably enough that you could agree on where you could cast your vote and help with the purposeful, what I like to call responsibility voting, right? The responsibility of voting. You are never going to be 100% prepared to agree with a candidate 100% of the time. Because the more you study and research them, right, you'll be like, oh boy, I don't know if I agree with that speech. I don't know if I agree with the stance on that issue. Listen, I'm more of a moderate because there are some issues that are important to me, and there are other issues that are not as important to me. And there's issues that one party that I disagree with completely, but then there's other issues in the party that I may agree with that I don't hold as strong to either. So which one weighs out best for me, right? I think that's what you have to do. Now, let me also say this when it comes to this question, the lesser of two evils, right? The question was posed when it looks like there is no candidate that really shows biblical characteristics and why I should vote for them, right? Who's the lesser? Listen, remember that you are not electing a pastor in chief, okay? You are not electing a pastor in chief. And by saying that, what I mean is this. This is not a popularity contest, nor is it a virtue contest. Okay, you know what I'm talking about here? It's not just a popularity contest. In other words, who icons are voting for or my friends are voting for. You've got to get down to the potential in the platform, not just the person. Look at the platform, the issues, not the icon, right? But then it's not just about, the person or the issues. Remember this too, that it's not even just about virtue, okay? It's about the vote. Because if you're waiting for virtue, you probably are missing that in your spiritual leaders around you, or your parent, or adult figures, or teachers, or coaches, right? There are so many flaws that each of us have. And so to be able to look at an individual and say, listen, I know they're not perfect. I understand that. But they hold closely or most closely to the kind of things that are important to me. I think that's what you're going to have to look at, right? And I think by simply reminding yourself, I'm not electing perfection, I'm electing a president, right? I'm not electing a person as much as I am a platform and the beliefs of that. Because all of us know to get things done in the halls of Congress or in the Senate, it's going to take a lot of people working together, right? So yeah, look, hopefully that helps, Nate, and that will get you closer to understanding and preparing yourself. Man, Barnabas, Desiree, Clint, thank you. Dominic, thank you. Yes, I feel a lot of people need to hear that, Nate, too. So I appreciate that. Let me give you another question that came up. And the question is, what do we do about our conversations with other people when we disagree with them? Okay? Man, I love this. These are great questions. These are the questions that all of us are asking, right? So as we're talking about politics, and next week we're going to do the same thing. We're 2 weeks and just a couple of days away. I want to remind you that this question here is sensitive, right? You hold to a set of values and beliefs that maybe somebody that you're in a circle of friendship with doesn't hold as strongly to that issue or your way of looking at it, right? Whether that's gun control, okay? Some of you are going to land on the side of gun control listen, this is our right, okay? And we have a right to defend ourselves and to bear arms, right? It's really simple. Others will say, yes, we have a right to bear arms, but not weapons, right? We don't have for automatic weapons or AKs or, look at the different magazine styles or bumps and, you know the conversation. And listen, I know that our listeners are going to land on both sides of this. I am a moderate when it comes to this because of some of the things that are happening in our schools and in society. And listen, I get the arguments, been around it. I've written on this. I know cars don't kill people. People kill people. I get that. And guns don't kill people. People kill people. I understand all the arguments, right? But I think it gets down to, for me, mental health. That's really important to me. Mental health checks and making sure that the right people are defending and arming themselves, correct? So those are the kind of things we have in place. Those are laws we have in place, and they just need to be followed, right, and upheld. So you see that even with a simple issue like gun control, where people can land on both sides of that, and yet vote a specific way, right? I'm very comfortable voting to the right on that issue because I hold strongly to a moderate view of that issue. So, okay, let's talk about the sanctity of life, the sanctity of gender, the sanctity of marriage, and the sanctity of sex, right? Some people hold very strongly to this, which I hold very strongly to, a sanctity of gender, sanctity of marriage, and sanctity of life policy, okay? And so that immediately moves me to a specific party, right? Now, that may not be important to you. Maybe taxes are more important for you. So what you're going to have to do is to look at the issues, where you land on them, and then how am I going to have this discussion? Listen, think about the last 3 minutes. I just brought up two really critical issues and important topics. The first one was gun control, and I shared with you specifically where I land as a moderate when it comes to gun control, right? I understand the rights, but I also understand the importance of protecting a society, okay, both ways, with the right to carry and the right to life, right? So when it comes to my view, maybe some of you are offended by that. But it was so easy for me to have that conversation because, listen, I don't want to just win arguments. I want to keep friendships. I don't want to win arguments and lose friendships. I want to keep the friendship. So there are some things that I just won't argue about. I just mentioned the sanctity of life, the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of sex. I have a specific way that I feel about each of those topics, but it doesn't break my relationship with people who might be way left of my of my stance on either one of those issues, right? I can sit at the table and welcome anyone at the table and have conversation with anyone at the table because of civility, right? And because of love and because of understanding. So I want you to think through with that question, how do I have these conversations with people that might disagree with me, right? Well, I think it's really simple. We just started that just now. And either you were offended or you disagreed. There's a difference, right? There's a difference between being offended and disagreeing. And I think sometimes we move right to offense, right to cancel culture, rather than having the conversation, either agreeing or disagreeing, right? So I hope that helps with that question. And let me deal with one more. Okay, I got time for one more question. Okay, listen, we are dealing with the topic of politics, and we are looking at the first question was preparing yourself. How do I prepare myself? Really simple. Talk to your family, talk to your mom and dad, talk to siblings, get some information from them. Secondly, talk to your peers. You may not know much about politics, but I bet you have people in your circle who do, right? Third, look at the news sources and balance out, balance out the news sources, okay? Go left, go right, and listen to both sides, and I think you'll prepare yourself really well and be able to make decisions on how you should vote. The fourth thing in preparing you to vote was making sure that you understand the issues and where each of the people and the platforms and the parties land on the issues that are important to you. And I just talked about some of those issues and how to research some of those issues. I think that will help you tremendously. Okay. The last question here that we just dealt with was, how do I have these conversations without getting enraged, right? Or without losing friends? And as we said, I want to have the conversation and I want to have the relationship. I don't have to win an argument and lose a relationship, right? That's so important. So understand the difference between offense and agreement. I don't have to agree, but if I disagree, I don't have to be offended.